Hello everyone, Xeno What If here. Bring in part 2 of What If Class 1A were sent to Marvel Universe. Link down description of the fanfiction of this What If. Listen here YouTube. I do not own anything and this is not a scam. New York City had many places worthy of many visits, but the most famous of all the sites in the big city was the Avengers Tower, a building that originally belonged to Tony Stark, but after certain events, became the base for Earth's mightiest heroes. Just now a green figure was leaping high above the streets until, with a final leap, he reached the landing platform of the tower, revealing himself to be the Hulk carrying Izuku and Tenya in his arms. When he released them, they both trembled slightly as they did their best to stand, the experience having been too much for them. "Sorry about that, but there was no quicker way to get here," said Hulk. It's okay, sir," said Tenya, regaining his balance along with his partner. Soon after, the two heard the sound of engines. Looking up, they were surprised to see a man in a red and yellow robotic suit descending onto the platform with Katsuki and Shoto in his arms. "Thank you for flying with Stark Airlines. Let's hope you had a good flight," said Iron Man before touching down, releasing the two students. "What is this place?" asked Shoto. "It is where you will get the answers you seek," said Iron Man. It was then that the four students present became aware of each other's presence. "Kachan, Shoto, what are you doing here?" asked Izuku in surprise. "What are you doing here, you damn Deku?" shouted Katsuki in response. Before any fighting broke out, an airship appeared and landed on the apron. As the ramp descended, the four students were surprised when they saw Ochako, Tsuyu, Eijiro and Momo exit the craft, along with Black Widow and Captain America. "Ochako?" asked Izuku, surprised to see his friend. "Deku," exclaimed Ochako happily as she and the rest approached the others. "You are here too. What the hell is going on?" asked Eijiro. "That's what I'd like to know too," said Tenya. While they were chatting about what they had recently experienced, the heroes were having their own meeting. "Okay, can someone explain to me what's going on?" asked Captain America. Understanding the situation with the captain, Iron Man and Black Widow told him what they had discovered about the students they saved. Even the Hulk shared what they told him. The fact that it's happened so many times is not just coincidence. Black Widow said. "This seems very strange to me," commented Hulk. "It's a shame we can't all speak Japanese," said Captain America. "Luckily, I asked Barton to bring something that could help us with that subject," said Iron Man. As both conversations ended, the students turned their gaze towards the heroes. Suddenly, to everyone's surprise, the armored hero's suit opened to reveal the person inside, who wore a strange light on his chest. "Well, I guess you want answers. So, why don't we go inside?" asked Tony Stark in their language so that they would understand. Not knowing what else to do, the students followed the heroes inside the building, and when they passed the glass doors, they were in total awe of the place they were in. It was big, much bigger than they thought. There were sofas, a small table and a bar with chairs near the wall. It was unbelievable to them that all that was in one room and in such a huge room. "Unbelievable. What is this place?" asked Tsuyu. "This room alone is much bigger than my house," said Ochako, very surprised. "Could it be some kind of hero headquarters or something?" asked Izuku with much interest. Suddenly, they heard the door opening. Through it, they saw a blond man with a helmet, cape, a suit of armor and a hammer in his right hand enter. "I heard your message, Stark. Has something happened?" asked the man before noticing the presence of the students. Who are those young people?" Before he could get any answers, someone else entered the room, a man with glasses and a bow on his back. "Now, Tony, would you mind explaining to me what you need?" began the man with the bow before noticing the presence of the students. Before he asked about the guests in the tower, the students noticed someone landing from the sky on the landing pad outside. It was a man with a pair of metallic wings, surely, to the students, some sort of mutant quirk. After retracting his wings, the man entered the room. "I hope the reason for your call is the strange activities that have been reported throughout the city," said the brown-skinned man before noticing the students. "I suppose these children have something to do with that, don't you?" "Yes, they do," said Black Widow. For the next few minutes, the four heroes were telling the newcomers about what had happened and what they had learned from them. The brown-skinned man glanced at the students, noting their features and clothing. So they're all Japanese, It's a pity most of them can't understand us properly, said Captain America. I've already thought of a solution. Clint, did you bring what I asked for? Asked Iron Man. Oh, so that's what it was for, said the bowman pulling a vial filled with a blue liquid from his pocket. I was wondering why you would want such a thing. What is that? Asked the man with the hammer. Something that will solve our language problem, said Iron Man taking the vial. Natasha, can you ask them to drink it? Asked Iron Man handing the vial to the heroine. Black Widow was able to understand what the liquid was about, whether it belonged to that particular doctor. So, taking the vial, she walked to stand in front of the students. Drink this, said Black Widow, handing the vial to Izuku. The green-haired boy, like his classmates, didn't understand what the liquid in the vial was about, but, after those heroes saved him and the others from those villains, he knew they could be trusted. Still nervous, he took the vial and drank some of the liquid in it. One by one, all the students drank the liquid down to the last drop. Can you understand me now? Asked Black Widow in English. Why yes, Izuku said before he was taken aback, for he had understood her and was speaking perfect English. I am speaking English. Me too, exclaimed Ochako. How is this possible? Asked Suyu. This is unbelievable. I won't have any problems with English exams anymore, commented Eijiro. Good. Now that we can understand each other properly. Do any of you know who we are? Asked Captain America pointing to him and the other adults present. I'm sorry sir, but we haven't seen or heard of heroes like you, said Momo. Really? How is that possible? Asked the man with the hammer. I think I have the solution to that question, Iron Man said before turning to the students. Did you hear about the multiverse theory? While the heroes were able to figure out what the situation was about, the students were left with confused looks at the question. Tenya was the only one who raised his hand. Yes, sir. It is a theory in which, for every path or decision we make, an alternate universe is created where you choose another option. For example, a world where you take the right instead of the left, or a world where your parents never met. Tenya explained. That's right, but there are two different worlds within that multiverse. The parallel worlds where, basically, everything is the same except for little things like you mentioned, and the alternate worlds that are totally different from yours, although there may be similarities like history or locations, said Iron Man. After the armored hero's explanation, the students began to understand what he was saying and what their situation was. Are you saying, we're in a world different from ours? An alternate world? Asked Shoto trying to sound calm. It makes sense if you ask me, said the brown-skinned man. The students stood in shock at the revelation. This can't be, said Momo shaking slightly. I thought that was just a theory, exclaimed Tenya in shock. A universe where people we know don't exist, said Izuku processing the information. That seems to be the case. The villains you encountered were villains from this world. Somehow, they obtained a portal device that allowed them to reach your world, said Black Widow. I can't believe it. This is pure science fiction, said Eijiro. And I thought we'd seen it all so far, said Suyu. How come you guys are taking it normally? Asked Shoto, seeing the calm attitude of the adults. After all we've been through, we're kind of used to it, said Hulk with a shrug. In fact, you were lucky it was them who found you, said the man with the bow. So you are heroes? Asked Izuku starting to get excited. That's right. We are one of the many groups of heroes established around the world. We are known as, the Avengers, the mightiest heroes on Earth, said Captain America. Hearing that, Izuku felt like a kid in the world's biggest sweet shop. Not only was he in another world with his own heroes, but he was in front of what were considered the mightiest. A part of him wanted to go up to them to ask them multiple questions and ask for their autographs. That's awesome. What are your hero names? What are your quirks? Asked Izuku about to go into a round of questions. Quirks? What's that? Asked Hulk managing to stop the green-haired boy before he continued asking questions. Izuku, we're in a different world, so you don't know the concept of quirks, said Tenya reminding his friend of the situation they were in. Realizing this, Izuku rubbed the back of his head in embarrassment. I'm sorry. I forgot, said Izuku. I think it would be best if you two explained first about who you are in your world, suggested the Hammer Man. Understanding the situation, the students proceeded to explain everything they knew to the heroes. In our world, someone's superpower is known as a quirk. 80% of the population of our planet are born with quirks that manifest themselves at an early age. Due to the large amount of quirk users, being a hero became an official job, said Tenya, starting with the explanation. To be a professional hero, you need a license. To get it, you have to attend a school specialized in training heroes. After passing the necessary tests, you will get a hero's license, with which you can use your quirk to save people, stop villains and get benefits for such acts, said Shoto, continuing the explanation. But if someone does hero acts without a license, they are considered a vigilante, which will result in them being arrested due to it being illegal, said Momo, finishing the explanation. Wait, you get paid for being a hero? Asked the brown-skinned man. Well, yes. Every worker deserves his pay, right? Asked Ochako. Yeah, well, I'm afraid things are different here, since here, being a hero is not an official job, said the man with the bow, crossing his arms. That surprised the students. What? Don't you get paid for what you do? Asked Ochako. No. In our world there aren't as many hero academies as yours, and there is no such thing as a hero's license, said Black Widow. There are no licenses. So, if you want to be a hero, is it enough to just put on a costume and do it? Asked Eijiro. If you have what it takes to be a hero, then you can be a hero, said Captain America. So, you are vigilantes? Asked Tenya. I guess that depends on anyone's point of view. There are some heroes who prefer to stay hidden while others are welcomed by the people, said the brown-skinned man. So, is being a vigilante allowed in this world? Asked Suyu. As long as you do a good job, it's fine, said the man with the hammer. But, if you don't get paid for being a hero, how do you make a living? How can you afford this place? Asked Ochako, referring to the building. Let's just say, we have connections, said the man with the bow. And as for the building, I don't think the owner would have a problem letting us use it, said Iron Man. Who's the owner, by the way? Asked Momo curiously. He's right in front of you, said Iron Man, giving a thumbs up. The students gasped at what the armored hero had said. What? This building is yours? Asked Izuku in shock. Are you some kind of billionaire or what? Asked Katsuki. Yes, I am. It was originally my company's building, but after certain events, I turned it into our main base. Iron Man said. Unbelievable. You must be the richest man in the world, said Eijiro. You're not far off from it, said Iron Man. Now, if you don't mind, what are your powers? Asked Captain America. My quirk is super strength. Izuku started by giving a fake name to his quirk, although Katsuki already knew the truth. It's an energy with which I increase the power of my muscles. Because I don't control it at all, every time I channeled my quirk into a single point, it hurt me a lot, so I created a method in which I spread my quirk all over my body, thus increasing my strength, speed and agility. Considering what you've told us, it's a good method, said Captain America. My quirk is zero gravity, said Ochako, continuing to explain. When I touch something with my fingertips, it becomes completely light as a balloon. I can also use it on myself to increase my mobility. The bad thing is that if I use it too much it gives me a stomach ache. Are side effects a common occurrence with quirks? Asked the man with the hammer. Not so with all quirks, replied Tenya before continuing. My quirk is motor. There are motor tubes coming out of my legs that allow me to run at high speeds. I can vary the level of speed, but I have to take continuous breaks for them to cool down. What's your maximum capacity for using that engine? Asked Iron Man curiously. About 10 seconds, but I'm working on increasing it, said Tenya. My quirk is a frog. Basically, I can do what a frog does, said Suyu. You know, there are some animal-themed heroes you'd get along with, said the brown-skinned man. My quirk is hardening, began Eijiro before activating his quirk, turning his body rocky and slamming his two fists together. It makes my body hard as a rock. Almost nothing can hurt me, he said before deactivating his quirk. I like that, kid. You remind me of a certain type of rock skin, said Hulk. My quirk is creation. I can create any inorganic object by taking them out of my body. As long as I know the material they are made of, said Momo, plunging her hand into the skin on his chest and pulling a pencil out from inside. Awesome. So you never have to worry about being short of arsenal, said the man with the bow. Yes. It's very useful, said Momo. My quirk is half and half. I can create ice on my right side and fire on my left side, said Shoto, causing an ice cube to form in his right hand and a flame to form in his left hand. Fire and ice. It's a very powerful combination, said the hammer man. If it wasn't for the fact that this jerk hates using his fire side because of his daddy issues, said Katsuki, frustrated as he remembered that unsatisfactory victory at the sports festival. Daddy issues? Asked the man with the hammer. I don't want to talk about it, said Shoto, averting his gaze to the side. Understanding that it was a personal issue, they put that topic aside. The last one left was Katsuki, who was greeted by everyone's gaze. My quirk, began Katsuki, showing his hands. It's explosion, said Katsuki, creating small explosions on his hands. I guess that explains the outfit, commented the bow man. It looks like you all have unique powers. I hope you put them to good use, said Captain America. Of course we will, sir. We are students with the goal of being professional heroes, so we must use our quirks to do our best, said Tenya, waving his arms like a robot. Can you tell us about yourselves and your powers? Asked Izuku, nervously and eager to learn from the mightiest heroes. Well, since you've told us about yourselves, it's time for us to do the same, said Iron Man. The students were excited to learn more about them. They couldn't wait to learn about the powers they had and who they were. Inside the Avengers Tower, students were waiting to hear about the new heroes in front of them. Knowing that they were known as the mightiest on Earth, they wondered what kind of powers they had to receive that title. All right, I'll start. I may not look it, but I'm a lot older than I look, said Captain America. What do you mean? Asked Ochako. You see, during the time of World War II, I wanted to join the army so I could save people. At first, they didn't accept me because of my weak constitution, but then, a man saw something in me that the other soldiers didn't have, and thanks to him, I was enlisted. Of course, things didn't go well for me in the camp because I was the weakest of my comrades. However, one day, I was chosen for a military project, and even though there was a risk of death, I agreed to do it, said Captain America. The students were listening with great interest to the story of the hero of the shield. You agreed to perform an experiment that could kill you? Asked Eijiro. Weren't you afraid of dying? Asked Momo. Yes, but if doing that meant the end of the war was near, I was willing to do it. Luckily, the experiment was successful, which made me what I am now, said Captain America. Wait, so you weren't born with powers? Asked Izuku. No. In our world, half of the heroes got their powers in accidental ways or through life's coincidences, said Captain America. Izuku was very surprised to hear that. In fact, the hero's story reminded him a bit of his history. For years, he said he would be a hero, but no one took him seriously because he had no quirk. But then, after certain events, he showed what it took to become the heir to All Might's quirk, the one for all. What happened after that? What was the experiment about? Asked Tsuyu. It was an experiment in which I was introduced to something called Super Soldier Serum. Thanks to it, I gained greater strength, endurance and speed. Since then, I became a symbol of hope for all of America, so I received the name, Captain America, said Captain America. That explains your costume. It looks very American as well as military, said Eijiro, pointing to the hero's costume. What about that shield? Asked Ochako. Captain America pulled his shield from his back to show it to everyone. This was a gift I obtained shortly after completing the experiment. It is made of a very strong material and very light, which makes it easier to use, said Captain America. You say you participated in World War II. How come you don't look so old? Asked Shoto. As for that, after I foiled a villain's plans, the ship I was on crashed near some glaciers. I could have died, but thanks to the serum, I managed to stay frozen for many years until I woke up in the current era, said Captain America. And you didn't find it difficult to wake up in a different era from your own? Asked Izuku. A little at first, but I've gotten used to it, said Captain America. I guess it's my turn, began the man with the hammer, drawing the attention of the students. I am Thor, god of thunder, son of Odin and prince of Asgard. This left the students surprised as well as confused. Are you saying you are the god Thor? Asked Izuku. The one from Norse mythology. Asked Eijiro. That's right, folks. The guy here is the real thunder god Thor, said Hawkeye. The students were silent with dumbfounded faces, even Shoto, who is normally relaxed, was completely shocked. Are gods real? Exclaimed Izuku in shock. Are you really a hero? Exclaimed Ochako. Are there any gods that can explode? Asked Katsuki. Should we bow to you? Asked Tenya. Wow. Slow down, guys. Began Thor, managing to calm the students down. Yes, maybe, and you don't have to. I can't believe it. There's a real god right under our noses, said Eijiro with much excitement. I don't get it. If you're a god, why are you on Earth? Asked Shoto. Well, let's just say that an acquaintance of mine came to Earth to do a lot of harm, so I came here to stop him. That's when I met them, and together, we managed to defeat him. After that, I decided to stay on Earth to protect the people, said Thor. The students were amazed to hear the story of a god who left his home to protect the people of Earth. This made them wonder if the other gods they had heard about since they were children also existed, and if they did, were they heroes or villains? Eijiro turned his gaze towards the hero in green. Let me guess, your power is super strength, right? You had to have seen it. Tenya and I had a hard time hurting the villain, but he was able to take him down with his own fists, said Izuku excitedly as he recalled the fight he witnessed upon arriving in that world. No wonder. Hulk is one of our strongest members. Only Thor can match him, said Falcon. We are still deciding who is the strongest, said Thor. Obviously, Hulk is stronger, said Hulk. Was he born with those powers or did he get them some other way? Asked Tenya, understanding the method of obtaining powers from that world. Hulk let out a sigh, seeing that he had to tell that story. A long time ago, there was a man, a scientist, known as Bruce Banner. The doctor specialized in the study of gamma energy. One day, during one of his experiments, there was an explosion, causing the doctor to be exposed to gamma radiation. Instead of dying, the doctor became me, said the Hulk. Wait, so you're Dr. Bruce Banner? Asked Momo. Yes and no. The doctor and I, we are different people, but also one, said Hulk. Is it a Jekyll and Hyde thing? Asked Suyu, understanding what the hero was saying. Yes, began the Hulk. However, when I was born, I was more like a wild animal. Full of rage and destroying everything in my path. I even came to be considered a menace, a monster. The students felt a little sorry for the hero in green after learning of his story. You're not a monster, Mr. Hulk, said Izuku, defending him. He's right. Monsters are those who harm people, but you saved us from that villain. That makes you a real hero, said Tenya. That may be so now, but it wasn't at first. Luckily, I learned to control my anger and my strength, and now I use it to protect and not to destroy, said Hulk, bringing a smile to the students. Then they all focused on the man wearing the armor. What about you, sir? What kind of powers do you have? Asked Momo. I'm sorry, but I don't have any powers, said Iron Man. The students were silent at the answer they received. What? You don't have powers? Asked Izuku in surprise. No, said Iron Man. But what about the armor I was wearing before? And that thing on my chest? I doubt it's something normal, asked Eijiro. Oh, this, said Iron Man, pointing to the glowing plate on his chest whose light showed through the shirt. You see, before I got into this Avenger thing, my company was in the weapons business. You made weapons? Asked Shoto. Yes. One day, some terrorists kidnapped me and forced me to make a weapon for them along with another man they kidnapped, said Iron Man. How did you get the chest thing? Asked Ochako. To capture me, the terrorists used one of my weapons, which consisted of inserting shrapnel that went into the victim's heart until it killed him. Luckily, that man was able to create a kind of shield to protect my heart from the shrapnel, said Iron Man. You could say you have a heart of metal, Suyu commented. You said it. I call him Reactor Arc, said Iron Man. How did you manage to escape from the terrorists? Asked Izuku, wanting to know more about the hero who claimed to have no powers. While we were working on the weapon they asked for, we were secretly working on a kind of armor whose power source was my own reactor. I managed to escape, but that man died before I could make it. Iron Man began, bringing a sad expression to the students' faces. After that, I decided to stop making weapons that could destroy and started making technology that could help people, said Iron Man. Like that armor from before? Asked Shoto. Yes. I designed various armor that could help me fight crime and help people. Among other things, right, FRIDAY? Asked Iron Man looking at the ceiling. Indeed, Mr. Stark, said a female voice across the room, startling the students. What? Who's there? Asked Katsuki. My apologies, Mr. Bakugo. I am FRIDAY, Mr. Stark's artificial intelligence, said FRIDAY. Is it an AI? Asked Tenya. Yes. Not only does it accompany me all the time in the armor, but it's connected to the main system of the whole building, said Iron Man. Unbelievable. I've seen many AIs, but none as complex as this one, said Momo. Thank you, Miss Yaoyorozu, said FRIDAY. So, you use technology to be a hero? Asked Eijiro. He's not the only one, began Falcon before spreading his wings. My suit gives me these wings to fly, and with my gauntlets I can fire energy bullets. And in our case, we simply use our skills gained from hard work and training to fight the bad guys, began Hawkeye, referring to him and Black Widow before pulling out his bow. But, personally, I prefer to use my technological bow and arrows. That's ridiculous. I can't imagine someone without powers being a hero, said Katsuki. In that case, we wouldn't be Avengers, would we? Asked Black Widow. Meanwhile, Izuku had stood completely still with a shocked expression, which his engine partner noticed. Izuku, are you okay? Asked Tenya. The green-haired boy was trying to process what he had discovered about how, despite having no powers, they were considered the mightiest heroes. No powers, but they are heroes. No powers, but they are heroes. No powers, but they are heroes. Over and over again those words ran through Izuku's head. What's wrong with your friend? Asked Thor, noticing the green-haired boy's condition. His quirk showed himself later than the others. For years he said he could be a hero without having a quirk, but in our world, such a thing isn't possible. I'm sure he's like that after hearing what those guys with no powers said, said Katsuki. Well, you can see that's different in our world. It doesn't matter if you have powers or not. As long as you are willing to help people, you can be a hero, said Captain America. That just made Izuku go even more into a trance, for those were the exact same words All Might said to him. No powers, but they are heroes. 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 No powers, but they're heroes. Izuku thought endlessly, as if his brain had been scratched. Annoyed by the attitude of his rival, Katsuki approached Izuku and hit him on the head, managing to shake him out of his trance. Wake up already, Deku. How long are you going to look like an idiot? Asked Katsuki. Sorry. I guess I was too surprised, said Izuku. You shouldn't underestimate them. Natasha and Clint are experts in espionage, Sam is a well-trained ex-agent, and as for Tony, well, he's the one who created the Avengers. We wouldn't be here if it weren't for him, said Captain America. The students still found it hard to believe that most of them were heroes without powers. The fact that some of them saw two of them fight real villains made them even more amazed. Izuku had to pinch himself to make sure it wasn't a dream. You'll need more than that to convince me. That guy may have beaten a villain, but he was a non-powered one. Surely if you faced one with powers, you wouldn't be able to do much, said Katsuki. Katsuki, you shouldn't disrespect them, said Tenya, scolding his partner. Geez, what an attitude the kid has, said Iron Man. I don't like it, said Hulk, crossing his arms. I'll take care of that, said Hawkeye. What do you mean? Asked Black Widow as she watched her partner approach the students, specifically, the blast quirk user. The students stopped their conversation as the arch-hero stood in front of his partner. Do you really think I'm not as strong as someone with powers? Asked Hawkeye. Of course, a person without powers can't be on par with someone with powers, said Katsuki. Then prove it to me, said Hawkeye, leaving the students confused. What do you mean? Asked Katsuki. Prove it to me, in a match, against me, said Hawkeye, pointing his thumb at himself. That came as quite a surprise to the students and a bit to the rest of the Avengers. You want to fight me? Asked Katsuki in surprise before a feral grin formed on his face. If that proves anything to you, then I accept the challenge. Kachan, are you sure? He's not only a professional hero, he's also an Avenger, said Izuku panicking. I don't care. As professional as he is, he has no powers. I'll show him that I'm above him, said Katsuki. Then do it, began Hawkeye before turning around. Follow me, he said before starting to walk, with the other Avengers and students following him. Clint, are you really sure about this? They're just kids, said Black Widow. Don't worry, I'll make sure not to hurt him too much. Besides, maybe this will teach him a thing or two about not underestimating his opponent because of what kind of power he has or because he doesn't have powers, said Hawkeye. Just make sure you don't go overboard, said Captain America. The Avengers led the students to a different floor from the one they were on, which consisted of a huge, completely empty room. Apparently, they was explained to them, it was a training room designed for every situation, which surprised the students. Hawkeye and Katsuki entered the training room, with each standing on one side of the room, while the rest stood in a separate room where they could watch the fight. While the other Avengers looked relaxed about the upcoming combat, the students seemed very nervous. They didn't expect that, as soon as they met the Avengers, one of them would start a fight with one of them. While Katsuki was strong, he was facing someone who in their world would be considered a professional hero. At the same time, though, they were a little curious as to how someone who told them he fought with a bow was going to fight. As soon as Iron Man gave the start signal, Katsuki was the first to rush forward with a blast. Halfway through, Hawkeye quickly launched one of his arrows. Taking it for granted, Katsuki stretched his hand forward with the intention of shattering it with a blast. What he didn't expect, however, was that when the arrow was mere centimeters from his hand, it caused an explosion so loud that it pushed the student backwards. What happened? There was an explosion, but it doesn't seem to be from Kachan, said Izuku in surprise. Clint's arrows are not normal, said Black Widow, drawing the attention of the other students. Aren't they? Asked Shoto. No, he couldn't use normal arrows to take on powerful villains. So she modified them so they could do various things. Like explosions, for example, explained Iron Man. The students were surprised to learn that the man who seemed weak because he used arrows turned out to be smarter than he looked. If they weren't interested in combat before, they were more interested now than ever. As Katsuki recovered from the small blast he received, Hawkeye rushed up to him and punched him in the face, knocking him down in the process. He hit him, exclaimed Tenya in surprise. He's faster than he looks, exclaimed Momo. Katsuki raised his head to shoot the bow hero an angry glare. I'm curious, does the quirk come with your personality or is it the other way around? Asked Hawkeye mockingly. Die, shouted Katsuki, throwing a blast at the Avenger, but he moved quickly to dodge it, which the student took advantage of to get up. Before he threw another blast at him, Hawkeye shot another arrow at him. Knowing he might have a trick, Katsuki raised his arms so that the grenades he was carrying acted as a shield. But then, instead of an explosion, the arrow stuck in the grenade, much to the student's confusion, which lasted a few seconds before the arrow gave him an electric shock making him scream in pain. Gritting his teeth as he endured the pain, he pulled the arrow out of his hand. With a scream of rage, he launched multiple blasts at the Avenger, but he was able to dodge each one. Unbelievable. That man is able to fight Katsuki even without powers. He's the manliest thing I've ever seen, said Eijiro. You're telling me, exclaimed Izuku. Seeing Hawkeye being able to fight without powers against someone who had them, he was liking that world more and more. He couldn't wait to learn more about heroes without powers from that world. Dodging another explosion, Hawkeye lunged towards the student and the two began exchanging blows with their own fists. Take that, shouted Katsuki pointing his hand towards the Avenger's feet. Hawkeye saw it and was able to dodge it by leaping upwards. Using the student's blast to his advantage, he moved to the back of the student and kicked him in the back, pushing him forward. Katsuki turned around with the intention of launching a blast, but Hawkeye quickly fired an arrow. Every student expected something similar to before, but as it was being shot, the arrow released a kind of smoke that covered the entire ground, leaving everyone unable to see anything. "I can't see anything," said Tsuyu. "I can fix that," said Iron Man before pressing a button, causing the glass through which they watched the fight to turn to infrared mode. Thanks to this, they were able to see the forms of Katsuki and Hawkeye. While the student was looking back and forth trying to find his opponent, the Avenger was completely calm. "Looks like they can't see anything either," said Izuku. Then, to the surprise of the rest of the students, Hawkeye readied an arrow and shot it, hitting directly at Katsuki, causing a small explosion due to the arrow. "He hit him," exclaimed Tenya. "How is that possible? None of us could see anything with all that smoke," said Ochako. "Like me, Clint was trained to be the best assassin," said Black Widow, surprising the students. "Are you assassins?" asked Eijiro. "We were. Clint was trained to be the best sniper in the world. Able to hit a target in rain or snow, daylight or darkness," Black Widow said. "Even if it's all that smoke, he's able to see his target," said Captain America. The students were even more impressed by the bow-wielding hero's abilities. By the time the smoke cleared, Katsuki could be seen rising from the ground while Hawkeye stood with an arrow ready to fire. "Lesson 1, kid. You know why they call me Hawkeye?" asked Hawkeye with a grin. "Because of your shitty arrows?" asked Katsuki with annoyance in his voice. "Almost, but no. They call me that because I analyze my surroundings," began Hawkeye before firing the arrow, but, to the confusion of all the students, he shot in another direction. "And I use it to my advantage." The arrow he shot bounced off one wall and then another until it hit directly into Katsuki's back. Before he could do anything, the arrow expelled some kind of foam that covered him completely and then hardened, leaving him completely trapped. "Hey, what is this? Get me out of here," said Katsuki trying to free himself from his prison. Needless to say, the other students were astonished at the outcome of the fight. "He won. Hawkeye won. He defeated Katsuki," exclaimed Tsuyu. "I can't believe it. He's so manly," exclaimed Eijiro. "A person with no powers defeated someone with powers. It's unbelievable," said Izuku trying to process something he never thought he would see in his life. "Tell me, what was the main reason your friend lost?" asked Thor. "He underestimated his opponent. He thought he would have victory just because he had no powers," said Ochako. "Exactly. You never know what kind of enemies you will meet in your world, so be prepared for anything. Don't take victory for granted before the battle begins," said Captain America. The students were impressed to have received a lesson from a professional hero. Meanwhile, Hawkeye approached Katsuki and, with another arrow, destroyed the student's prison. "Well, have you learned not to underestimate those without powers?" asked Hawkeye. "Shut up. You just got lucky. Next time I'll defeat you," exclaimed Katsuki angrily as he prepared to leave the room. "I'll take that as a yes," said Hawkeye with a shrug. Later, the students returned with the Avengers to the main hall. As more questions came to the students' minds, one question in particular crossed the mind of one of them. "Mr. Stark," said Momo raising her hand and catching the hero's attention. "I don't mean to intrude, but isn't there any way we can get back to our world?" The students put all the questions they had behind them to focus on that one. While they liked the idea of being in another world full of heroes, they couldn't help but be worried about their original world and the people there, such as their family and friends. "Don't worry. I've already thought of a solution," said Iron Man. "Really? What is it?" asked Tsuyu. "Before we came back here, FRIDAY analyzed your vibrational frequencies," said Iron Man. "I hope you don't mind that," said FRIDAY. "Never mind," said Shoto. "You see, every universe has its own vibrational frequency. By calculating a person's frequency, you can determine which universe they're from and locate them easily," explained Iron Man. "Does that mean you can get back to our world?" asked Ochako hopefully. "Not right away, but I have a couple of colleagues who will be happy to help you with that. It will take a while, but they'll get it done and you'll be back on your world as soon as possible," said Iron Man. "Until then, it looks like you'll be staying in this world a little longer," said Captain America. Even though they wouldn't be returning to their world right away, the students were happy to be able to spend more time in a new world full of heroes. They couldn't stop wondering what kind of heroes they would find in that world or what things they would experience there. "Mr. Stark, you have a call from Director Fury," Friday said. "Just tell him the usual," said Iron Man. "I did, and he left a message. He says he's picked up strange signals all over the city and he's sure you and the others have something to do with it," said Friday. Iron Man let out a frustrated sigh. "All right, what does he want?" "He wants you to go see him. I'd recommend that you take the little gentleman with you," said Friday. "You haven't been in this world a day and already you are going to meet him." "I don't know if that's good luck or bad luck," said Hawkeye. The students were quite confused about what was going on. "Who is Fury?" asked Izuku. And this is the end of part 2 of this What If. Do not forget to leave a comment down below, subscribe to this channel.